I know a lot of investors will go for the kill right away, but for the numbers to work, like I can't pay interest on that. Like I'll give you the number that you guys want, you know, so that we just had to come up with $200K in cash from an investor. We did a really quick BRRRR on 2 of the units, and within 90 days we got it appraised, right? So we were into it for $200K, got a check which paid off our rental costs. So now we basically had this thing for nothing 3 years ago. So now it's got to be worth $400K or more. And these were the rents before. So 700, 700, 650. So now the rents are 1,400, 1,400, 1,200. And there's a high demand for rentals in Sarnia, so furnished. So we're playing around with Airbnb and short-term rentals with executives. So we're getting 2,200, 2,000, 1,700. I mean, if you look at $5,700 versus $2,150, what they used to get, like we've almost tripled the rent.
0% VTB, yeah, those things are possible when you get really creative with your investment strategy. In today's video with Kory Mackinnon, he's going to break down for us exactly how he was able to create a win-win with a seller that allowed him to get a second place mortgage at 0%. This really comes down to the exact strategy, and what we need to be doing with our offers is crafting the offer specific to the seller and the seller's property, and that's exactly what Kory did in today's video. What is up, you guys? Matt McKeever with Kory Mackinnon again, and so today we're talking about a triplex where he got a 0% VTB. Is that right?
Yeah, 0% VTB for 5 years.
All right, so I'm guessing there's a bit of a story here, so let's hear it.
For sure. So this property is actually owned by my dentist. So this is a person that I've been getting my teeth cleaned since I was 4 years old, and every time I'd go there 4 times a year to get my teeth cleaned, he'd keep asking me if I was still at the same job. And then eventually I started telling him I was doing real estate, and kept telling him I was doing real estate, kept telling him I was doing real estate. I guess I should have tried to close him a little bit harder. It was actually my uncle that ended up saying, look, you should just call my nephew if you want to sell your triplex, because that's all he does now. He's a full-time real estate investor. And they knew what they wanted to get out of the property. They wanted to get $265 out of it. And based on the rents were really low at first, so it was worth less, but I saw the turnaround play.
Potential.
I was willing to pay a little bit more for it, especially if it was, you know, favorable terms. So I said, look, I'll give you the number that you want, but you need to give me a vendor take back. So they did 65 grand at 0% principal only payments, and we kept the payments almost nothing for the first 2 years, because I said it's going to take me 2 years to turn this thing around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did this look like when the dentist had it? Like, what sort of tenants were in here? Obviously, it sounds like it was under rented. Very
under rented. I mean, they were keeping up with the minimum, so they didn't totally ignore it, but they, you know, it was definitely tired. So yeah. it needed some love for sure.
And so was this their only rental property?
I think they had a couple, and you know, they'd already sold those ones off. This was like their last one, gotcha. And it was kind of like the final straw. They had like a toilet put out at the curb that wasn't theirs, and they got fined for it. They were actually, I think they were in Florida on vacation, because they take some time off every year, and they were getting these letters in the mail, and it got to the point where they had to go to court, and the city made these high-profile people go to court and waste time for a day just over like $175 fine. So they just
ridiculous.
Said, we're done. And obviously they were getting calls from the tenants all the time. They were renting to roofers, and you know, I think the person upstairs was on social assistance or whatever. So that one went vacant. I said, leave that one vacant. So at least there's, you know, one less personality I need to deal with, because it's not just the properties you guys have to manage, it's definitely the personalities of the property.
Yes, the relationships are so important. So were they comfortable with this idea, or did you have to explain vendor take back to them? How did that all go, ebb and flow?
Yeah, they're both business people, so they actually mentioned that they were willing to hold paper on the property. So, and I know a lot of investors will go for the kill right away, like, oh, will you hold a mortgage on it? It's like, man, it's pretty much the equivalent of like seeing a person at the bar and just saying, you want to go home tonight. But so they were open to it. So I made 3 different proposals, and we had probably 3 or 4 different coffee shop meetings about it.
Yeah.
And I started off higher. I think I was looking for a $75,000 vendor take back, and they're like, that's too high, we can't do that, but we can do 65, which ends up being, you know, as far as a percentage, usually higher than what most people hold as a vendor take back. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, but for the numbers to work, like I can't pay interest on that. Like I'll give you the number that you guys want, you know, so that we just had to come up with $200K in cash from an investor. We did a really quick BRRRR on 2 of the units, and within 90 days we got it appraised and pulled out like all of our mortgage money, or not all of our mortgage money, like we put a mortgage on it, and pulled out our renovation costs, and we actually had a check, you know, walking away with a check, because that turned into a $238K mortgage.
Okay.
right? So we were into it for 200K, got a check, which paid off our rental costs. So now we basically have this thing for nothing. And we're just making principal only payments.
And so they actually let you keep this after the refinance, and you just kept, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, and we actually didn't even register this one on title until we did our refinance. We kept it as a promissory note because when the bank inquires, they can see what's registered on title. So we just wanted to make it really clean. Let's just do this once.
Yeah, that's really important for the viewers at home. There's a sequence of events that you're going to really want to manage in this situation. If you guys haven't done it before, like reach out to an expert that's done it, someone like Kory, or talk to your lawyer and make sure you have a firm understanding, because often like a lender won't want a second or third place on the property. So it's just really important that you guys manage those timelines to make sure you hit it.
Yeah.
So this was back in the day when you originally got the property 90 days after.
Yeah, it's just 3 years ago. So now it's got to be worth 400K or more. And we could buy out that VTB, but why? Like it's
free money.
It's free money right now, right? So, and these were the rents before. So 700, 650, which even in those terms were low. So with our cosmetic renovation, I don't like to get into like really extensive, like let's gut everything, and like we just try to work with what we have. And like these cabinets here are painted, and we kept some of the appliances, and we do things that people use often, like taps and light fixtures and things that they get to use like multiple times a day. We spend the money on that stuff because there's like a high usability factor. But so now the rents are 1,400, 1,200, and there's a high demand for rentals in Sarnia, so furnished. So we're playing around with Airbnb and short-term rentals with executives. So we're getting 2,200, 2,000, 1,700. I mean, if you look at $5,700 versus $2,150, what they used to get, like we've almost tripled the rent. So
that's massive.
And it's a huge lot. It's 300 feet deep, so we could do a big garage in the back. If the city ever allows carriage homes or something, at some point we could do that.
Yeah. So, and like these are big units in and of itself. You were saying like probably about 1,000 square feet just in this 2-bedroom alone, which is like massive. I love it. So what will you do next with this property? Will it just kind of stay in your portfolio and keep chugging along?
I think we're just going to keep milking it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone gives me a sweetheart offer, we might sell it, but it's like we've got so little into it and it's worth more. We're probably going to look to refinance it when the mortgage comes up next year.
Yeah, and just access that equity, go out and do it on another project again.
Exactly, but right now it's cash flowing so well, we got to keep recycling that money and spend that money on something in the business, or else we're going to be paying some more tax than we want. So
yeah, and so this property, it looks like it's electric heating.
It does. That's one of the only drawbacks, electric heat. So I did things like windows and insulation and made sure it's as tight as we can make it.
Yeah.
And it's actually not that bad in the wintertime. I mean, we're talking maybe 140 in the coldest months, which you'd be paying that on a gas bill anyway. So
that's great.
We've looked into doing a heating system, like a hot water rad system is going to be 40K.
Okay, that's good to know.
So you look at your payback period on that, it's quite some time. So we're just going to let it ride.
It's not really necessarily impact the ARV and appraiser is going to give you.
That's right.
So,
That's right. I'll let the next person do it if they want.
Yeah. And so was this property separately metered?
Separately metered for hydro, yeah, and there was actually no gas meter at the time, and each unit, this was another reason why the tenants didn't like their rents, or the rents were low, is because there was an electric hot water tank tied to each one of these accounts, which is like a big kettle, and it was probably costing them like $75 a month in hydro. So I brought in one big gas-fired hot water tank, which reduced everybody's bills.
Yeah.
Much like yourself, whenever we buy a property, you're like, how can we tweak this and tweak that? There's usually like 8 to 10 different wheels that you can tweak and work with, right, to save some money and save energy and make sure your renovations are as strategic as possible. Like you don't have to like, it's not your own home, right? Someone's going to be renting this, and as a renter, as long as it's clean and it's open and again, it's not their dream home, it's their rental. So they're thinking about the house they'll have someday.
Yeah, and so I'm sure there's a lot of young investors that are watching this that salivate at the idea of getting into VTBs. And we touched upon it a bit, but would you mind, are there some other tips or tricks you'd recommend for people when trying to bring up the subject of VTBs, or maybe how to spot opportunities where there's a higher likelihood of a vendor take back?
Definitely. So I find that the opportunities for vendor takebacks are when you're dealing with, first of all, business people, investors that own rental property. It wasn't just like inherited to them or fell in their lap somehow. And if they believe in the property, they're usually willing to finance it a little bit.
Yeah.
So lots of times what I do is I just kind of go, okay, you want this, I'm looking, it's really only worth this based on the rents. So we have a problem here. It's like, well, how can we make this work? You know, and then you almost guide them towards, well, what if I help somehow with the financing, right? It's like, okay, well, let's explore that and put some numbers into a spreadsheet and see what would still work for cash flow, or how long it's going to take to turn this building around. And then you can play with your terms, I guess, of the vendor take back. So
yeah.
Even though it's 0% interest, the principal payments will end up being 50%. So I'll have paid 50% of this vendor take back after 5 years. So the first 2 years were really almost minimal, and then the next 3 years are pretty heavy on payments, but it's okay because it's cash flowing so crazy. So
yeah, it's awesome. And so, like, obviously in Canada there's certain tax savings as well that you can try and pitch the seller on. I'm guessing in this case, because they only wanted to do a $65,000 vendor take back, they probably had a mortgage on the property for some amount, and that's why they probably didn't want to go any larger on it, because they'd want access to that capital in order to pay down the first place mortgage they had.
I think they both wanted $100K each, so they just wanted to cash out. And
gotcha.
Yeah, the one person was retiring, and I think the other person just wanted some access to some money for a vacation property. But
so yeah, so like there's another great lesson, is make sure you understand the seller's why. You know, why are they trying to sell it? If they're going to go buy a Lambo, or they're going to buy a down payment on a cottage, they're going to need access to that capital. So understanding just kind of their backstory will really help you narrow in on where you need to be if you're going to try and get that VTB.
yeah, and don't be too aggressive. Like, be fair. Like, give them what they were looking for. Like, the property was actually only worth, like, based on the rent roll, $245. So I was coming up 20 grand to work with them. We gave them their number. They went out and got 2 appraisals, and that was the average of them. But it just, based on the rents, it wasn't worth that at the time. So, and they weren't willing to give me the place vacant. So I mean, there's only so many things that we could play with.
Well, appreciate it again, Kory, breaking down the data for us. If people want to reach out, what's the best way to get in contact?
Yeah, go find me on Instagram, go find me on Facebook, just look me up by name. I'm sure I'll be in the notes of this video.
Yeah, we'll throw in the video description.
I try to post like daily stories of the stuff that we're doing when we're renovating and hiring contractors and looking at deals. So there's going to be some pretty cool videos coming out.
Awesome. Thanks, Kory. If you enjoyed today's video, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Also, if you want to see the behind the scenes on some of these video shoots, then you need to be following me on Instagram. Peter and I are road tripping to Brantford to see Sarah Larby. We're going to be shooting some videos in Brantford today. This is the first time we're going to Brantford for YouTube videos. So we're in Brantford now with Sarah Larby, and we're talking about BRRRRing in Brantford. How long have you been BRRRRing here?
Since 2013.
And you've been doing it the entire time while working a full-time job?
That's it, full time.
She's crushing it. She's also one of the founders of the Right Club guys. We've had Alfonso on the channel before. Now we got Sarah. If you want to see me go live where I share just a lot of the tips and tricks and strategies that we're using today in Ontario, Canada for real estate investing, then you need to be following me on Facebook. What is up, Facebook? Hopefully everyone's having a good Friday, and we are hopefully live. It is August 23rd. We're trying to go live every single day in August. This seems like a solid comp for our potential 4-bed, 1-bath. There are many photos here. There we go. Cool. Interesting. Always love seeing a toilet on an angle, just keeping things fresh. So anyways, this is a decent little comp for us, you know. If you were really concerned about what sort of rents you were going to get for, say, this 4-bed, 1-bath in this private duplex, we'll throw links in the video description down below. Jump over there and give me a follow.